Hi, my name is Frankie Panzanella Goodrich, and today we're going to be talking about how to have a healthy work-life balance when in ministry. An important part to be able to achieve this, a pastor needs to have healthy boundaries. Having healthy boundaries is imperative to being a successful minister. We can't pour into others if we don't have anything to pour. Pastors so often experience burnout because the job can be very emotionally draining, and they don't know when to say no. The lines can get blurry when you're trying to be everything to everyone, but we have to set boundaries in place in order to protect our health and our peace. We cannot do what God has called us to do if we aren't healthy. Some important boundaries you could consider having include making sure you have that day off once a week, making sure that you schedule time to be with your spouse or your friends or your family. Consistently spending time with God that has nothing to do with your sermon prep is very important. Sometimes this means getting creative with your date nights or waking up really early in the morning to spend some time with the Lord. I know for me, having that one day a week where I get to just rest and reset my house and put everything back in its place has a huge impact on me mentally and on my ability to function. I don't naturally find time to rest or find a time in my schedule to be able to spend with my husband. I have to intentionally make space for those things. A pastor's job can take a great emotional toll. This is because we spend a lot of time listening to others and walking them through their problems or difficult situations, and it can just be emotionally draining. It can be hard for us to not become desensitized or cynical to these kinds of things. It's important to remember that we can't carry everyone else's problems. This is why we need a strong support system. This is why we need people we can confide in, people we can trust, people that we can process things with. This can be difficult because as pastors, it sometimes feels like we've been placed on this pedestal, that we need to be perfect all the time, that we can't make mistakes, that we can't struggle with things. This makes that support system even more important because we need people who can hold us accountable, people we can turn to and say, hey, I'm really struggling with this, or hey, I made this big mistake and I don't know what to do, can you help me? Because trust me, it's going to happen. We as humans, we're going to make mistakes, and pastors are no different than everyone else. Your support system can include people like your spouse or a good friend or a mentor. It is good to have someone who can give you an outside perspective, who is removed from the situation and kind of look in with an unbiased opinion. I know for me, that's my best friend. She and her husband are in ministry, but they live in a completely different state than me. But I know that when I come to her with things, I can trust her to hold me accountable, to be honest with me, to love me, and to also just give me an unbiased opinion, because sometimes I get in my own head and I'm too much in the situation to be able to see what's actually going on. The hard part can be admitting when we can't fix everyone else's problems. It is our instinct to want to fight, to want to take a stand, to want to fix things. But we have to admit when it's time to hand over a situation to God and let Him fight the battle. This goes against our very nature. The hard part can be admitting that we can't fight everyone's battles for them. It is in our nature to want to fight, to want to take a stand for injustice, to want to step in and just fix that problem. But we have to admit when it's time to let a situation go and let God fight our battles. This goes against our very nature because, like I said before, we want to help. We want to bring peace and order back. But we must recognize that we cannot win every battle. Only God can. And we can't take on everyone else's problems. We have to let other people fight their own battles. We have to learn to trust God with these situations and that He's going to take care of our people. An important part to doing this is learning to say no. As pastors, we sometimes suck at saying no. And this goes back to setting those boundaries. So once you've figured out what your boundaries are, what your non-negotiables are, you've got to take a stand for them. You've got to fight and protect those things, which probably goes against what I just said, but in this sense, yes, this is time to fight. It is time to take a stand for your boundaries because not everyone is going to respect your boundaries. And not everyone's going to understand them, and that's sad. But it's important to remember that doesn't invalidate your boundaries or why you need them. We can't be everything to everyone and stay healthy. We must learn how to make time for God, for ourselves, and for our families. These three things have to come before everything else, because if we don't take care of ourselves to stay healthy both physically and mentally, then we can't be the best pastor, parent, spouse, friend that people need us to be. we won't be able to be the person God has called us to be.